United States capital cities. I know, super interesting topic. Please don't click off. Although the capital of the United States is Washington, D.C., every state has its own capital city, which you probably already do, but I gotta fill space in this intro somehow, so bear with me here. Most state capitals in the US are not the most populous city in the state, besides a few notable exceptions like Colorado, Arizona, and Oklahoma, and others, but the majority of capitals are not. But why is this? Well, in most cases, the states chose a more centralized city as the state capital so as to make sure that residents could be equally represented without concentrating all of the state's power into the big city of the state. A major example of this is Pennsylvania, whose capital is in Harrisburg, despite there being much larger cities like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. Harrisburg's locale in the center of the state and its proximity to the historic Susquehanna River is what made it an attractive choice for the capital. Although slightly unconventional and seemingly counterintuitive, the value of centralizing the capital is obviously worth keeping the people who live hundreds of miles away from the big cities feeling represented through an equally accessible location. So why the hell is Juneau the capital of Alaska? Alaska, the final frontier, a state known for its wildlife, picturesque peaks, and that one island where you can theoretically walk across the ice to Russia, although it is illegal to do so. Okay, the last one is probably just me, but you get the picture. Alaska is the largest state in the Union by area, but in contrast is ranked 48th by population, with just over 700,000 people living there. The territory was purchased from Russia in 1867 and was officially granted statehood in 1959. For the majority of Alaska's history, it was a very sparsely populated region, mostly inhabited by the native tribes that had called the land its home for centuries. In the late 1800s, this would change. As for many areas in the American frontier, gold was a motivating factor for migration to the area, and that would be no different for Joe Juneau, the namesake of the Alaskan capital. In 1879, a German mining engineer by the name of George Pills made a request for experienced prospectors to explore an area deeper into the mainland of Alaska that had been rumored to have gold deposits. Joe Juneau and his partner at the time, Richard Harris, took Pills up on this offer, and in the midsummer of 1880, they began their trek up Gold Creek towards what would be the modern-day site of Juneau, Alaska. After finding a negligible amount of gold in the area, the two returned to the capital at the time in Sitka, a town located about 90 miles west of the valley on the coastline. Sitka served as the capital of the territory from 1867 all the way up until 1906, when it was replaced by Juneau. The following fall, the pair would make the journey a second time to fully explore the creek, which turned out to be a wise decision, as they would go on to discover large gold-bearing quartz veins, and the rest would be history. Mining operations and settlers would soon begin to flood the region, which led to the newly minted district being named the capital of the territory. With all this being said, the question still stands. Why Juneau when there are seemingly much better centralized options in the region? Well, to answer that question, we have to look at the population distribution of the region. In the early 1900s, the vast majority of Alaska's population core was in the southeastern leg of the territory, with some of the biggest cities at the time being Sitka, Juneau, and Skagway, all being located here. The only notable discrepancy here would be Nome, which had a population of over 12,000 residents at the 1900 census, but would fall dramatically in the coming decades due to the conclusion of its gold rush. The last missing piece to this puzzle is Anchorage, the state's largest modern-day city by far. For reference, the population of Anchorage dwarfs that of Juneau's, with around 280,000 calling the city its home, compared to just 31,000 in Juneau. Yet it remains the capital to this day. It would seem that making Anchorage the capital of the territory would be the wiser decision to make, a centralized city home to a large chunk of the population block, but unfortunately there's a little problem with that. See, when Juneau was made the capital in 1906, Anchorage just simply didn't exist yet. The city wouldn't be founded until 1914, a full 8 years after Juneau had already been crowned as the capital. Anchorage wouldn't experience its population boom until after World War II, when hundreds of thousands of military personnel came up to Alaska to set up military bases and rail infrastructure. In retrospect, it's easy to see why Juneau was set up to be the capital of the region at the time. It had a central location to the population centers, it was the closest you could really get to the mainland cities like Seattle at the time, and Anchorage didn't exist yet. But in the modern day, it still doesn't make that much sense. Why keep the state capital in such a remote and unreachable location? I mean, hell, even today, the city is only reachable by air or sea because it's not connected to any long-distance road networks. Well, the answer is really more nebulous than you might expect. Starting in 1960, there have been several attempts to relocate the capital to Anchorage, but every single one has failed. Whether it fell apart in the legislature or lost in a referendum, the people's will always seems to float towards keeping Juneau the capital, the way it's been for over a century. While Alaska has certainly modernized in many ways due to the military population boom after World War II, its people still hold strong the roots of Alaska being truly the final American frontier, inaccessible state capital and all. While many things change in the modern era, some things just stay the same. Thanks for watching. Peace.
It's a mix of this shit stirred up out in the background scene, looking like the dog got in the trash, fitting back away, a nigga tryna pop in the bag, catch a microwave, I forgot it's a splash when I cash out, blackout, trapped out my dad house, Jim Carrey, the DVD, I pull a mask out, lunchtime, grilling, get a pack, mad loud, hit a play, run a route, I might pull a map out, I ain't jump off the porch, nigga, I flew, who with the new